I'm Kylie, 29, a graphic designer living in Boston. 3 years had passed since I last set foot in my childhood home in Michigan. This Thanksgiving was supposed to be our big reunion, a chance to mend broken bridges and reconnect with my family. I'd been hopeful, nervous, excited. But when my brother Andrew opened the door, his cold eyes told me everything I needed to know. I wasn't welcome. Not anymore. Not ever. If you're watching this right now, drop a comment letting me know where you're tuning in from. Hit that like and subscribe button to join me on this journey of discovering that sometimes the family you choose matters more than the family you're born into. Trust me, you'll want to hear what happened when I realized my own blood wanted nothing to do with me. Growing up in suburban Michigan, my childhood looked perfect from the outside. Our 2-story colonial house with its manicured lawn and white picket fence seemed like something out of a magazine. But inside those walls, a different story unfolded. One where I never quite belonged. My father James worked as an accountant at a prestigious firm in Detroit. He ran our household with the same precision he applied to financial statements. Everything had a place, a purpose, a measurable value. Emotions, creativity, spontaneity, these were variables that didn't fit into his equations. My mother Diana embodied the role of perfectionist homemaker. She was known throughout the neighborhood for her immaculate home gourmet cooking and picture-perfect children, well, one picture-perfect child. Her life revolved around maintaining appearances and impressing others. The country club memberships, the charity committees, the neighborhood socials, all carefully calculated steps in the dance of suburban status. And then there was Andrew, my older brother by 3 years, the golden child. He excelled at everything he touched. Captain of the football team, straight A student council president. He had our father's head for numbers and our mother's social grace. Every parent-teacher conference was a chorus of praise for Andrew's achievements. Every family gathering centered around his latest accomplishments. I was different from the beginning. While Andrew built elaborate structures with his building blocks, I used them as stamps to create patterns of color. When he joined the debate team, I discovered photography in the school darkroom. As he memorized multiplication tables with ease, I struggled with math, but could lose myself for hours in writing stories. Why can't you be more like your brother? The question followed me throughout my childhood, spoken and unspoken. Look at the Johnston's daughter. She's already taking AP classes. The Miller girl made varsity as a freshman. What activities have you signed up for? The comparisons were relentless, a constant reminder that I wasn't measuring up to the standard set by my perfect brother and the other achievement-oriented children in our upper-middle-class neighborhood. My achievements, when they came, were always dismissed. The art contest I won in 7th grade was just drawing. My role in the school play was playing pretend, when I should have been focusing on real subjects. When I made honor roll despite my struggles with calculus, it was overshadowed by Andrew getting accepted to 3 Ivy League schools that same week. High school only widened the gap between us. As I developed my own identity, experimenting with vintage clothing, dyeing my hair purple one summer, and covering my notebooks with sketches, my parents' disapproval grew more pronounced. Andrew continued his straight path to success, dating the daughter of my father's boss, being crowned prom king, receiving a partial scholarship to Princeton. The breaking point came during my senior year. I'd been secretly applying to art schools, while my parents assumed I'd follow Andrew's path to business school. When my acceptance letter from the prestigious Boston Institute of Art arrived with a partial scholarship, I was ecstatic. This was my chance to pursue what I loved. The argument that followed my announcement still rings in my ears sometimes. My father red-faced, calling it a waste of money. Art school, you might as well flush your tuition down the toilet. My mother more concerned about what she'd tell her friends. What am I supposed to say at the garden club? Everyone's children are going to real colleges. And Andrew standing silently beside them, that smug expression I'd grown to hate. I'm going, I had told them, hands shaking but voice steady. I've already accepted. I start in August. My father didn't speak to me for weeks afterward. My mother stepped up her campaign of subtle and not so subtle digs about my choices, but I was determined to succeed, to prove that my path had value too, to prove that I had value. That summer before college was the loneliest of my life, but it strengthened my resolve. I would make something of myself, something they couldn't dismiss or belittle, something that would finally make them see me. Boston welcomed me like my family never had. The city's blend of history and innovation, tradition, and creativity seemed to mirror the person I was becoming. Those first months were hard, I won't pretend they weren't. The transition from suburban Michigan to urban Massachusetts, from being the odd one out to finding my people, came with plenty of tears, doubts, and ramen noodle dinners. My freshman dorm paired me with Sophia, a photography major from Seattle, with an infectious laugh and unwavering confidence. Where I second-guessed myself, Sophia charged ahead. When I questioned if I belonged in such a competitive program, she'd roll her eyes and tape my sketches to our wall. Talent like yours doesn't question itself, Kylie. That's just your parents talking. She became the sister I'd never had in spirit. The family I chose, rather than the one I was born into. Classes challenged and excited me in ways high school never had. For the first time, my way of seeing the world wasn't wrong, it was valued. My tendency to hyper-focus on details, to notice color relationships and spatial composition transformed from quirks my family criticized into strengths my professors praised. My junior year, I landed an internship at a small but growing design firm downtown. The creative director, Jordan, became my mentor. A 40-something with salt and pepper hair and a collection of vintage band shirts, Jordan saw potential in me that I was still learning to see in myself. "You've got the eye, kid," he'd say, reviewing my portfolio. "But more importantly, you've got the hunger. That's what separates the artists from the professionals." After graduation, that internship turned into a junior designer position. The pay was barely enough to share an apartment with Sophia and another friend in a slightly sketchy part of town, but I was building something. Creating. Belonging. Communication with my family dwindled to obligatory holiday calls and the occasional email. My mother would fill these brief exchanges with news of Andrew's accomplishments. His promotion, his new car, the house he bought in the right neighborhood. I'd share updates about my own career only to have them dismissed. "So you're still drawing pictures. When are you going to get a real job?" My father's voice always with that undertone of disappointment. Even as my career began to take off as I moved from junior designer to senior, as my client list grew to include recognizable brands, they couldn't or wouldn't see it. My success didn't fit their definition. It didn't come with the title, the corner office, the country club membership that they valued. I met Marcus during my second year at the firm. He came in as a client representing a small tech startup needing branding work. Dark-haired with glasses and a quiet intensity, he valued my creative input from our first meeting. Our professional relationship quickly evolved into coffee meetings, then dinner dates, then weekends spent exploring Boston's museums and hidden bookstores. He became another piece of the life I was building, one where I was accepted and valued for exactly who I was. Then came the news of Andrew's engagement. Not directly from my family, of course, but through a cousin's social media post. The bride-to-be, Jessica, came from a family even wealthier than the one my brother had worked so hard to impress. Her father owned a chain of luxury car dealerships across the Midwest. Her mother sat on the boards of several prestigious cultural foundations. They were by my parents' standards perfect. The engagement party was scheduled during the same week I was finalizing a major campaign for our biggest client yet. When I called to explain I couldn't make it, my mother's response was predictably dismissive. "Well, I suppose your little drawings are more important than your brother's future. We'll tell everyone you were too busy to attend." Again, I sent an expensive gift with a heartfelt card. It was returned without a note. The already sparse communication grew even colder after that. My Christmas card came back marked "Return to Sender." Birthday calls went straight to voicemail. It hurt, but in a familiar way, a pain I'd grown accustomed to carrying. 3 years passed this way. My career flourished. I was made a partner at the firm. Sophia and I bought a small but charming condo in a vibrant neighborhood. Marcus and I grew closer, talking about our future together. I had built a life, a good one, but there remained that empty space, that family-shaped hole I couldn't quite fill. So when my mother called unexpectedly to invite me for Thanksgiving, saying it had been too long and they wanted to see me, hope flickered to life. Maybe time had softened their judgment. Maybe my success, now undeniable, had finally earned their respect. Maybe, just maybe, they were ready to accept me as I was. "We'd love for you to come home," my mother had said, her voice softer than I remembered. "It's time to put the past behind us." I booked my flight that same day. The Michigan air hit sharper than I remembered as I stepped out of the rental car agency. November in the Midwest had none of Boston's coastal tempering. It cut straight through my designer coat, a reminder that I wasn't home anymore. If this place had ever truly been home. The drive from the airport to my parents' house took 30 minutes, each passing mile ratcheting up my anxiety. The suburbs looked both exactly the same and somehow different. New shopping centres had replaced familiar fields. Houses had been repainted, remodeled, some torn down for larger models. I wondered if my childhood home would feel equally transformed. It didn't. The colonial still stood pristine and imposing, its white exterior freshly painted, the lawn meticulously maintained even in late November. My father's Mercedes and my mother's Lexus SUV sat in the driveway alongside a Range Rover I didn't recognize. Andrew had arrived before me. I sat in my rental car for several minutes, gathering courage. This was supposed to be a reconciliation, a fresh start. Why did it feel like I was walking into a performance review? Andrew opened the door before I'd even finished knocking. My brother had aged well, his collegiate athleticism softened slightly into the comfortable physique of a successful businessman. But his expression when he saw me wasn't one of welcome. It was disappointment quickly masked. "You're here. Not 'you made it' or 'great to see you', just the flat acknowledgement of my presence as if confirming an unfortunate fact. "I'm here," I echoed, trying to keep my voice light. "It's good to see you, Andrew." He nodded stiffly and stepped aside to let me in. No hug, no offer to help with my bags. The house smelled the same, a mixture of my mother's signature potpourri and furniture polish, with underlying notes of something baking. Thanksgiving preparations were underway. My parents emerged from the kitchen, their greetings equally subdued. My father offered a brief, loose handshake. My mother's hug was perfunctory, her eyes already darting past me to assess the state of my appearance. "You look urban," she said, her tone making it clear this wasn't a compliment. I glanced down at my outfit, black jeans, ankle boots, and an oversized sweater, standard Boston creative professional attire. I'd thought I looked good. "Thanks for having me," I said, ignoring the subtle dig. It's been a long time. Dinner that first night was an exercise in exclusion. My parents and Andrew discussed people I didn't know, events I hadn't attended, future plans I wasn't part of. Whenever I tried to join the conversation, my contributions were met with polite nods before the topic immediately shifted. "So the wedding plans are coming along?" my mother asked Andrew, cutting off my story about a major campaign I'd recently completed. "Yes, Jessica's mother has been amazing. She's hired the best planner in Michigan. The venue's booked for June at the Lakeside Country Club." "Wonderful, and her parents are still coming for Thanksgiving. I want to make sure everything is perfect." That was the first I'd heard of additional guests. My stomach tightened. This wasn't just a family Thanksgiving, I was being integrated into a performance for my future in-laws. A performance I hadn't been rehearsed for. Later that evening, passing the hallway to get water, I overheard their whispered argument. "Why did you invite her now of all times?" Andrew's voice tense with frustration. Jessica's parents asked about her. My mother defensive. What was I supposed to say, that we haven't seen our own daughter in 3 years? We could have made an excuse. Now we have to explain her to the Bradfords. "Lower your voice. She'll hear you." "I don't care if she hears me. This is exactly why she doesn't fit with this family. She's always been difficult, always made everything about her." I retreated silently to my childhood bedroom, now converted into a generic guest room. My posters were gone, my bookshelves emptied of my eclectic collection. The walls had been repainted from the purple I'd chosen as a teenager to a neutral beige. Opening the closet, I found boxes labelled Kylie's things stacked neatly, my existence compressed and contained, ready to be moved to storage or disposed of entirely. Sitting on the edge of the unfamiliar bed in the familiar room, I wondered what I'd been thinking coming back here. What reconciliation had I imagined? These people didn't miss me. They'd carefully excised me from their lives, keeping just enough connection to maintain appearances. I called Marcus, fighting back tears, as I told him about my reception. "Come home," he said immediately. "I'll book you a flight right now. You don't need to put yourself through this." "I can't," I replied, though I couldn't fully articulate why. "I need to see this through. I need closure, I guess, to finally accept what I've always known. I love you," he said softly. "Call me anytime. I'm here." Those 3 words, spoken so freely and genuinely, contrasted sharply with the strained politeness downstairs. Marcus loved me for who I was, not despite it. In Boston, I was valued. Here I was, tolerated at best. I fell asleep wondering if I should have listened to him and booked the first flight back to where I belonged. Thanksgiving morning dawned bright and cold. I woke early, a lifetime habit of trying to prove my worth, through helpfulness kicking in despite myself. In the kitchen, my mother was already preparing her movements, efficient and practiced. "Can I help?" I offered, hovering in the doorway. She glanced up momentarily, startled by my presence. No thank you, I have a system. I'm pretty good in the kitchen these days, I persisted. Sophia and I host dinner parties regularly. I make a great cranberry compote with orange and ginger. I'm making the cranberry sauce Grandma Harris always made, she replied, her tone leaving no room for discussion. The Bradfords are traditional people. They appreciate classic dishes. Translation: my contributions weren't wanted or needed. Even my offers to set the table or chop vegetables were rebuffed. I was relegated to the role of observer in my childhood home, watching my mother prepare the meal with the same precision she applied to everything, checking items off her handwritten list with satisfied little ticks. In the living room, my father and brother watched football, drinking beers and commenting on the game. When I joined them, their conversation noticeably shifted from easy banter to stilted small talk. "How's work?" my father asked during a commercial break, his first direct question since my arrival. "Really good, actually. Our firm won a National Design Award last month for a campaign I led. We're expanding, taking on bigger clients." I was made partner in September. Partner? My father's eyebrows raised slightly. In a design company. What does that actually mean in terms of compensation and benefits? Always the accountant reducing achievement to numbers on a balance sheet. It means I'm part owner now, I explained, trying to keep the defensiveness from my voice. I have equity profit sharing a seat at the leadership table. We're projecting 7-figure revenue next year. He made a non-committal noise and turned back to the game. For my father's success in a creative field would never measure up to a traditional corporate career, no matter the achievements or financial outcomes. The doorbell rang at precisely 2 o'clock. Jessica arrived first, a willowy blonde in a cashmere sweater and pearls. She greeted my parents warmly, Andrew with a kiss, and then turned to me with genuine curiosity. "You must be Kylie, I've heard so much about you." Her handshake was firm, her smile reaching her eyes. In another context, I might have liked her. "Not from my family, you haven't," I replied with a small laugh, trying to keep my tone light despite the truth in my words. Her smile faltered slightly before she recovered. "Andrew mentioned you're in advertising. That must be so creative and exciting." I caught my brother's warning glance. Advertising, not design. Another little revision to make me more acceptable. "I'm actually a graphic designer and partner at my firm in Boston," I corrected gently. "We do some advertising work, but also branding, digital design, all kinds of visual communication." "Oh, how interesting!" Jessica's response seemed genuine, but my brother had already steered her away, directing her attention to a family photo where I was conspicuously absent. The Bradfords arrived moments later. Jessica's father, George, was a tall, imposing man with a booming voice and expensive watch. Her mother, Elaine, was elegantly coiffed, her designer outfit understated yet clearly costly. They swept in with the confidence of people accustomed to being the most important ones in any room. The contrast in how my parents received them versus me was stark and painful. Where I'd been given a perfunctory greeting, the Bradfords were embraced, complimented, fussed over. My mother, who'd brushed off my help all morning, eagerly accepted Elaine's offer to arrange the flower centerpiece. "And this must be your daughter." George Bradford's attention landed on me, eventually his handshake crushing. "Andrews told us you work in advertising in Boston. Good city for that industry, I imagine." There it was again, the sanitized version of my career. "Actually, I'm a graphic designer and partner at a design studio," I corrected, ignoring Andrew's glare. "We work with clients nationwide on visual branding and communication." "Partner. At your age, well done." "Oh, shh," like my father, George, seemed genuinely impressed. "One of my dealerships just rebranded completely. Cost a fortune, but worth every penny. The right visual identity makes all the difference in luxury markets." For a brief moment, I felt a flicker of validation. Here was someone who understood the value of what I did. But the moment was short-lived. "Kylie has always been artistic." My mother interjected her tone, suggesting this was a curious quirk rather than a professional skill. "We always thought she'd outgrow it, but she's made it work somehow." Made it work somehow. As if my national award-winning career was a hobby I was stubbornly clinging to. As if becoming partner at 30 was a consolation prize for not following a more respectable path. Throughout the elaborate Thanksgiving dinner, the pattern continued. My parents showcased Andrew's accomplishments, his recent promotion, the house he and Jessica were building, his golf handicap, while fielding questions about me, with vague dismissive responses. When Elaine asked what neighborhood I lived in, my mother changed the subject entirely, apparently uninterested in or embarrassed by my life in Boston. "Actually," I said, refusing to be erased, "I live in Back Bay." My friend Sophia and I bought a condo there last year. It's a beautiful area, lots of history. Back Bay, Elaine exclaimed. We love Boston. We stay at the Four Seasons there whenever we visit our friends the Hendersons. They have that lovely brownstone on Commonwealth Avenue. The conversation continued with my parents looking increasingly uncomfortable as I engaged directly with the Bradfords. It became clear they had told Jessica's family as little about me as possible, and what they had shared was carefully edited to seem more conventional, more acceptable. More like Andrew. The tension built through dessert, my mother's picture, perfect pumpkin pie, served alongside coffee in the good china. I could feel the storm gathering, the inevitable confrontation approaching. Part of me wanted to retreat to play along for the sake of peace, but a stronger part, the self I'd built in Boston, refused to be diminished any longer. The breaking point came during after-dinner coffee in the living room. The conversation had turned inevitably to wedding plans. Jessica's mother was describing the bridesmaids' dresses she'd helped select at a boutique in Chicago. They're the most beautiful shade of sage green, Elaine explained, with these lovely cap sleeves. They'll look stunning in the June light at the country club. They really are beautiful, Jessica agreed, then turned to me with a warm smile. I wish we'd had a chance to get you fitted while you were here, Kylie. We'll have to coordinate something in Boston. The room went silent. I looked at Jessica, confused, then at Andrew, whose face had gone rigid. Fitted? I asked, not understanding. For your bridesmaid dress? Jessica clarified, her eyes darting between me and Andrew. I assumed since you're here now. Jessica, Andrew interrupted sharply. We discussed this. Discussed what? I asked, looking from face to uncomfortable face. Kylie isn't going to be in the wedding party, my mother said smoothly. With her living so far away, it would be logistically difficult. Oh, Jessica's smile faltered. I just assumed since she's your only sister, Andrew. She's not going to be in the wedding, Andrew repeated, his jaw tight. Am I even invited? The question left my mouth before I could stop it, the pieces suddenly clicking into place. Another silence, longer this time. My father studied his coffee cup. My mother adjusted an already perfectly positioned cushion. Andrew looked away. I deserve an answer. I pressed, my heart pounding. Am I invited to my only brother's wedding? We hadn't finalized the guest list, my father hedged. That's not an answer. My voice remained steady despite the hurt blooming in my chest. It's a simple question. Am I invited or not? No, Andrew finally snapped. You're not invited. Happy now. Andrew? Jessica gasped, clearly shocked. What do you mean she's not invited? She's your sister. In name only, he shot back. She hasn't been part of this family in years. She chose to leave, to reject everything we value, to embarrass us with her lifestyle and choices. My lifestyle, I echoed, incredulous. You mean my successful career, my healthy relationships, my happiness. Your selfish, unconventional choices, he corrected. Everything always has to be about Kylie and her special path. Well, my wedding is about me and Jessica, and I don't need you there making it about yourself. I've never made anything about myself, I protested, years of suppressed hurt rising to the surface. I've spent my entire life being told I wasn't enough, that I didn't fit, that I needed to be more like you. See? Andrew gestured wildly toward me, addressing Jessica's parents. This is exactly why we don't include her. Everything becomes a drama. I think George Bradford said carefully, that we should give your family some privacy to discuss this. He stood, helping his wife to her feet. Jessica, perhaps we should go. No, please stay, my mother urged, visibly distressed at the collapse of her perfect Thanksgiving. This is just a little misunderstanding. It's not a misunderstanding, Mom, I said quietly. It's the truth finally coming out. I was invited here because the Bradfords asked about me, wasn't I? Not because you actually wanted to see me. My mother couldn't meet my eyes. Confirmation enough. Andrew, Jessica said, her voice shaking slightly. I don't understand. Why wouldn't you want your sister at our wedding? Andrew threw up his hands in frustration. Because no one wants her here. He shouted, his composure finally breaking. Not at the wedding, not at Thanksgiving, not in this family. She doesn't fit. She never has. I looked at my parents, waiting for them to contradict him, to defend me, to show even the smallest sign that his cruel words didn't represent their feelings too. They didn't. My father stared silently at the floor. My mother pursed her lips and gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. Mr. and Mrs. Parker, Elaine Bradford said stiffly. I think we will be going. Jessica, George, come along. "I'm so sorry, Kylie," Jessica whispered as she followed her parents. The front door closed behind them with quiet finality. In their wake, the silence in the living room was deafening. My brother glared at me as if I'd deliberately ruined his relationship with his future in-laws. My parents looked defeated, their perfect facade finally cracked beyond repair. "Are you satisfied now?" Andrew hissed. "You've embarrassed us in front of the Bradfords just like you always do." "I embarrassed you." I laughed a hollow sound. "By existing, by telling the truth about my life when you've been lying about it. I didn't create this situation, Andrew. You did. All of you did. We've done everything for you." My father finally spoke, his voice cold. "Paid for that art school when you refused a proper education. Supported you even when you rejected our values. Supported me." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You've criticized, dismissed, and belittled everything I've ever done or been. And now I find out you've been lying about me to Jessica's family, then invited me here under false pretenses to keep up appearances. We thought you might finally make an effort," my mother said quietly. "That seeing Jessica's family, their success and propriety might inspire you to reconsider your choices." "My choices," I repeated. "You mean my thriving career, my loving relationship, the life I've built that makes me happy." "Your mother means a respectable career," my father interjected. "A proper relationship leading to marriage, a life that doesn't embarrass the family name." In that moment, with crystal clarity, I saw the truth. They would never change. They would never see me the real me. They would never value what I valued or respect the path I'd chosen. And I would never be enough for them, no matter my success, no matter my happiness. I said, rising to my feet with a calm that surprised even me, that I should leave. "Drama as usual," Andrew muttered. "No," I replied, looking him directly in the eyes. "Not drama, self-respect, something I should have practiced long before now." I turned and walked upstairs to pack my things, their silence following me like a shadow. In the guest room that had once been mine, I pulled my suitcase from the closet and began methodically packing my belongings. My hands moved automatically, while my mind processed the finality of what had just happened. This wasn't a temporary rift, it was the culmination of a lifelong disconnect, the breaking of a bond that had been fraying since childhood. I wasn't sad exactly. Beneath the hurt lay a strange sense of relief. The pretense was over. The hope that they might someday see me, truly see me, could finally be laid to rest. It was both an ending and a liberation. As I folded a sweater, memories flickered through my mind. My 10th birthday, when my art teacher praised my talent, but my father dismissed it as doodling. High school graduation, standing alone while other parents hugged their children with pride. College move-in day, arriving by myself while roommates were surrounded by supportive families. I'd been looking for approval in the wrong places all along, seeking validation from people constitutionally incapable of giving it to me. While searching for my charger in the closet, I discovered a box I hadn't noticed earlier. Unlike the others, labelled simply Kylie's Things. This one read Kylie's Art. Curious, I pulled it down and opened it. Inside were drawings and paintings from throughout my childhood and teenage years. A watercolour landscape from summer camp, charcoal sketches from my high school art class, even early childhood crayon drawings preserved despite their childish execution. They'd kept them all hidden away like a secret, like something shameful. I was holding a particularly detailed portrait I'd drawn of my mother when a soft knock came at the door. I expected Andrew ready with more accusations, or perhaps my father with a stern lecture about making scenes. It was Jessica. "Can I come in?" she asked hesitantly. "My parents left, but I told them I forgot something so I could come back and talk to you." I nodded, surprised. She entered, closing the door softly behind her. "I am so sorry about what happened downstairs," she said, her voice low. "I had no idea. Andrew told me you two weren't close, but he never said. I never imagined he would exclude you from our wedding." "It's not your fault," I replied carefully, returning the portrait to the box. "You couldn't have known." "But I should have," she insisted, sitting on the edge of the bed. "There were signs, the way they rarely mentioned you, how there are almost no photos of you in the house. When I asked about you, Andrew would change the subject." I shrugged, trying to appear more nonchalant than I felt. "It's been this way most of my life. I just didn't realize how far they'd gone in erasing me." Jessica glanced at the box of artwork. "May I?" she asked, gesturing toward it. When I nodded, she carefully lifted out a few pieces, studying them with genuine interest. "These are extraordinary," she said after a moment. You were talented even as a child. No wonder you've been so successful in your career." Her simple acknowledgement, so freely given, meant more than she could know. "Can I tell you something?" she asked, returning the drawings to the box. "Something about Andrew?" I nodded, curious despite myself. "He talks about you more than you'd think," she said, surprising me. "Not to his parents, but to me. Late at night sometimes, or when he's had a few drinks. He talks about how free you are, how brave you were to chart your own course." Andrew admiring me. The concept was so foreign, I almost laughed. "I think it's more complicated than admiration," she said carefully. "I think it's envy mixed with resentment. He followed the path laid out for him perfectly, made all the right choices. But sometimes I catch him looking at magazine articles about creative careers or innovative companies with this wistfulness." She twisted her engagement ring, a massive diamond that caught the light. "I think he resents that you had the courage to break away while he stayed on the prescribed path. It's easier to reject you than to face his own doubts." Her insight was startlingly perceptive. I'd never considered that Andrew the golden child might envy my freedom, that his hostility might stem from his own suppressed desires. "What will you do now?" I asked her, "after what happened downstairs?" "I don't know," she admitted. "I love Andrew, but seeing this side of him of your parents, it raises questions I can't ignore." She stood, smoothing her skirt. "But that's for me to figure out. Right now, I wanted to make sure you were okay." "I am," I said, realizing as I spoke that it was true. "Or I will be. I have a real home to go back to. People who love me for who I actually am." "I'm glad," she said, and impulsively hugged me. "And for what it's worth, I would have loved having you as a sister-in-law." After Jessica left, I finished packing with renewed resolve. This would be the last time I sought approval from people who fundamentally couldn't give it. The last time I diminished myself, trying to fit into their narrow definition of success and belonging. I picked up my suitcase and the box of artwork, my unlikely inheritance from this house, and made my way downstairs. In the living room, my family had resumed their positions as if nothing had happened. My father reading the newspaper, my mother straightening already perfect cushions, Andrew staring at his phone. They looked up with surprise as I entered with my bags. "Where do you think you're going?" my father demanded. "Running away again." "Not running away," I corrected him calmly. "Moving forward. I'm going home to Boston, to the life and family I've built for myself." "Don't be ridiculous," my mother said. "It's Thanksgiving. What about dessert?" The absurdity of her concern after everything that had transpired was almost comical. "I think we're well past dessert, Mum." "So that's it," Andrew challenged. "One uncomfortable conversation and you're out the door." Typical Kylie, always making dramatic exits. I set down my bags and faced them directly, standing taller than I ever had in their presence. "I've spent my entire life trying to earn your approval, your love, your acceptance. I see now that was never possible because the problem wasn't me. It was your inability to accept anyone who didn't conform to your narrow vision." My father started to interrupt, but I held up my hand. "Please let me finish. I won't get this chance again." Surprisingly, he fell silent. "You've made it abundantly clear that I don't belong in this family, at least not as my authentic self, only as the version of me you wish existed. I can't be that person. I won't be that person, not anymore." I took a deep breath, steadying my voice. "I've built a beautiful life in Boston. I have people who love me unconditionally. I have a career that fulfills me and brings me joy. I'm not asking for your approval anymore. I don't need it." "What exactly are you saying?" my mother asked, her voice uncharacteristically uncertain. "I'm saying goodbye. Not forever necessarily. If someday you can accept me for who I actually am, not who you wish I was, maybe we can try again. But I won't be coming back to be belittled, dismissed, or hidden away like something shameful." I picked up my bags again and moved toward the door. "Kylie." My father called, his voice softer than I'd heard it in years. "Don't leave like this. It's Thanksgiving." I turned back one last time. "Yes, it is. And I'm thankful for the clarity this visit has given me. I'm thankful for the strength I've found to finally stand up for myself. Most of all, I'm thankful for the family I've chosen, who've shown me what unconditional love actually looks like." And with that, I walked out the door. The flight back to Boston that night was half empty, most travelers having already reached their Thanksgiving destinations. Sitting by the window watching the Midwest disappear beneath clouds, I felt a complex mixture of emotions, grief, relief, exhaustion, and underneath it all, a growing sense of peace. I had finally stopped chasing the mirage of my family's approval. The weight of that lifelong pursuit lifted from my shoulders, left me feeling almost weightless. Sophia was waiting at the airport despite the late hour, her familiar face the first real welcome I'd received since leaving Boston. One look at my expression told her everything she needed to know. "That bad?" she asked, taking my suitcase. "Worse? Oh, yeah," I replied, fighting back unexpected tears. But also clarifying. She hugged me tightly right there in the terminal. "Their loss," she said fiercely. "Their stupid, tragic loss." My apartment, with its mismatched furniture, art-covered walls, and plants in every corner, had never looked more beautiful. Sophia made tea while I changed into pajamas, then sat with me as I recounted the disaster that had been my family reunion. "I always knew they were bad," she said when I finished. "But this is next-level emotional abuse. Excluding you from your brother's wedding, pretending you have a different career that's beyond dysfunctional. The strangest part," I admitted, "is that I feel relieved. Like I've been released from a contract I never wanted to sign in the first place." Sophia nodded understandingly. "You're free from trying to win an unwinnable game. That is something to celebrate." Marcus arrived the next morning with croissants from my favorite bakery and unwavering support. While Sophia had responded with righteous anger on my behalf, Marcus offered quiet understanding and practical reassurance. "Family trauma doesn't heal overnight," he said, as we walked through the public garden, the late November air crisp, but nowhere near as biting as Michigan's. "It's okay to feel whatever you're feeling, grief, anger, relief, confusion. It's all valid." "I feel all of those things," I admitted. "But mostly I feel like I can finally stop pretending, stop hoping they'll change. It's sad, but it's also freeing." The weeks that followed were a time of processing and healing. I threw myself into work at first, using the familiar routines of design and creative problem-solving as a form of therapy. But unlike previous times when I'd used work to avoid emotional pain, I also gave myself permission to feel everything, to cry when needed, to express anger, to acknowledge loss. I began seeing a therapist, something I'd considered for years, but had always put off. Dr. Lynn helped me untangle the complex web of family dynamics that had shaped me, to recognize patterns of seeking validation that still influenced my behavior, to understand that my parents' inability to accept me wasn't a reflection of my worth. "What your family did is called emotional neglect," she explained during one particularly illuminating session. "They provided materially, but withheld the unconditional acceptance and emotional support children need. You've been seeking that missing validation your entire life. And I'll never get it from them," I concluded. "Probably not," she agreed. "But the good news is you can learn to validate yourself. And you've already built a support network of people who see and appreciate you for who you really are." As the holiday season approached, I faced the prospect of Christmas without family traditions for the first time. Rather than trying to recreate what I'd lost Sophia Marcus, and I decided to create something entirely new. We hosted a chosen family Christmas dinner, inviting friends who for various reasons weren't returning to their families of origin. Jordan from work brought his famous bourbon pecan pie. Marcus's cousin, who had recently come out and been rejected by their conservative family, joined us. Sophia invited 2 international students who couldn't afford to fly home. In our small apartment decorated with an eclectic mix of ornaments and twinkling lights, we created a new kind of holiday community where everyone was accepted exactly as they were. In January, an unexpected email arrived from Jessica. She and Andrew had postponed their wedding. "After what happened at Thanksgiving, I couldn't proceed without addressing some serious concerns," she wrote. "We're in couples counseling now. I don't know what the future holds for us, but I wanted you to know that meeting you made me question things I had previously accepted without thought. Thank you for your authenticity." I wished her well, genuinely hoping she and Andrew would find a healthier path forward, whether together or apart. In March, 6 months after Thanksgiving, my design firm landed our biggest client, yet a national campaign that would put my work on billboards across the country. The success was sweeter for being shared with people who genuinely celebrated my achievements. My chosen family threw a surprise party complete with a cake decorated to look like my winning design. "I wish my parents could see this," I admitted to Marcus late that night. Not for validation anymore, but just so they could understand that different doesn't mean wrong or less valuable. Maybe someday they will, he said, always the optimist. A year after the Thanksgiving disaster, a letter arrived in my mailbox. My mother's handwriting on the envelope immediately recognizable despite the years. Inside was a short note, hesitant and awkward, but containing something I'd never expected: an apology. "I've been doing a lot of thinking this past year," she wrote. "Watching your success from afar, through the articles I've found online about your work. I'm beginning to understand that I've been wrong in how I've treated you, how we all have. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just opening a door if you ever want to walk through it." I didn't respond immediately. The letter stirred up complex emotions that needed time to settle. I discussed it with Dr. Lynn, who reminded me that I could establish boundaries while still allowing for the possibility of growth. "Your mother may be genuinely reaching out, or this may be another attempt to bring you back into old patterns," she cautioned. "Only time will tell. The question is, what do you want from this potential reconnection?" After careful consideration, I sent a brief, kind response. Not rushing to forgive, not holding on to bitterness, but opening a small window for possible future healing while maintaining the boundaries I'd established. 2 years after Thanksgiving, my first solo gallery show opened in Boston, featuring a series of mixed media pieces exploring themes of belonging, identity, and chosen family. The artwork incorporated elements from the childhood drawings I'd rescued from my parents' house, transformed and integrated into new contexts, a visual representation of my journey. Standing in the crowded gallery on opening night, surrounded by friends, colleagues, and Marcus, now my fiancé, with a simple emerald ring that reflected my values rather than my parents', I felt a fullness that had nothing to do with external validation and everything to do with internal alignment. I had found my place in the world, not the place others expected me to occupy, but the authentic space where my true self could flourish. What I've learned through this journey is that family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about finding the people who see you, truly see you, and love what they see. It's about creating spaces where everyone can be their authentic selves without fear of rejection or judgment. I can't say I never think about my parents and brother, or that I don't sometimes feel the ache of that broken connection, but I no longer define myself by their inability to accept me. Their limitations are not my failure. True belonging isn't about contorting yourself to fit someone else's expectations. It's about being brave enough to stand in your truth, to honor your unique path, and to surround yourself with people who celebrate, rather than merely tolerate, your authentic self. If you're watching this and something in my story resonates with you, know that you're not alone. Whether you're struggling with family rejection, fighting to be seen for who you truly are, or working to build your own chosen family, your journey matters. Your authenticity matters. I'd love to hear your stories in the comments. How have you found or created belonging in your life? What helped you break free from others' expectations? Like and subscribe if this resonated with you, and share with someone who might need to hear that they're enough exactly as they are. Thank you for witnessing my story. Remember that you are the author of your own life, and you have the power to write a future filled with authentic connection and true belonging.